10 times WWE wrestlers got into real fights. Before we begin this video, I would like to ask you to like the video if you enjoy it and subscribe to support our channel. We truly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we upload new videos to our channel. Thank you and enjoy the video. Backstage fights are rare, but from time to time they happen. These days, wrestlers take professionalism way more seriously than past days. Most of them are not taking substances that would goad them into throwing hands, and they prefer playing video games than getting blackout drunk. But back in the 80s, 90s and even early 2000s, backstage brawls were part of WWE, and we're here to share how ego, stubbornness, and stupidity got wrestlers fight one another for real, out of character, without finishers and no referees. Here are real fights that happened in WWE, because things got out of hand. Number 10. Rick Rude vs. The Ultimate Warrior. The story goes that the Ultimate Warrior had been stiffing Rude in the ring with his signature clotheslines from hell and horrendously painful slams. Rude, who is a gentleman, went up to Warrior backstage and told him to please lighten up in the ring. However, Warrior responded that he didn't have to, because he's the Ultimate Warrior. That was enough for Rude to throw one punch at Warrior and knock him out. Rude's punch meant lights out for one of the most hated men in pro wrestling. Number 9. Goldberg vs. Chris Jericho. Bill Goldberg is a martial arts enthusiast. If the MMA gloves he wears to the ring wasn't an indication, then his time as a broadcast commentator for the short-lived Elite XC promotion will clinch it. Combine that with his massive size and his time as a defensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons, you would think that he could take one plucky Canadian rock star in a real fight. But he failed big time. In Chris Jericho's second book, Undisputed: How to Become the World Champion in 1372 Easy Steps, Y2J speaks about how he confronted Goldberg over some smack talk he was saying about him behind his back. Tempers flared and Goldberg charged at Jericho, who had a plan and was ready, as he locked on a guillotine choke and held on for dear life until the two got separated. They would break free and fight some more, but Jericho still came out on top. Even more impressive was that Jericho tamed the beast enough to the point where he was able to get Goldberg to agree to a truce. Rock on, Jericho. Number 8. Big Show vs. Steve Blackman. Big Show is so huge, you would think no one will dare confront him. But these are pro wrestlers we're talking about, and size means nothing to them, at least not when the blood rushes to their heads. According to an interview made with Teddy Long, Blackman was lying on the floor of the locker room, resting. His bag served him as a pillow, and suddenly Big Show decided to stand over him. Blackman politely asked Show to move over a little bit, but the big guy simply ignored him. Not being amused, Blackman hooked both of Show's feet and scissor sweeped him, tripping him flat on his back. Surprised and maybe a bit hurt, Show moved away and gave Blackman his space. Keep on resting, Steve, you earned it. Number 7. Sheamus vs. Sin Cara. Sheamus is a big, tough guy from Dublin, Ireland, weighing 270 pounds, and Sin Cara, well, is not. So what? As the story goes, back in 2014 at a Raw show in Albany, New York, Cara was in the training room being attended to by one of the physicians on hand. All the trainers were occupied when Sheamus came in and made a remark, saying that Sin Cara should leave because Sheamus was way more important to the company than the Sin Cara. Sin Cara didn't take this remark kindly and got in Sheamus' face. He then started sweeping and punching Sheamus before being broken up. Lesson of the story? Fear no one, even if he's Irish and weighs 270 pounds. And, maybe it helps to be a luchador too. Number 6. Ken Shamrock vs. Nasty Boys. 2-on-1? Handicap match? I thought this only happens in the ring during a storyline? Oh well, guess I was wrong. This incident, collision, or whatever you want to call it, happened in 1990 and has two different versions, but both start the same way. Shamrock and the Nasty Boys were both at a nightclub when a very drunk Brian Knobbs, the blonde one, started harassing a female friend of Shamrock's. At one point, Shamrock had enough and decided to interfere and beat up two Nasty Boys, only the bouncer stepped in before anything got too heated. Shamrock, who did not cool down, knew where their hotel was and decided to go after them later. After he burst into their room, he decided to pounce Knobbs, who was already passed out. Now, this is where the stories differ, as Shamrock says he got a cheap shot from behind by Jerry Sags, and the Nasty Boys claim that Sags got the better of Shamrock and eventually Knobbs joined in on the beatdown. Either way, Shamrock left the room on a stretcher. I'm surprised the Nasty Boys didn't follow Shamrock to the hospital like he followed them to the hotel. Number 5. Buff Bagwell vs Hurricane Helms. On the one hand you have one of the coolest and quietest guys in WWE, that's Hurricane. On the other hand, you have a guy who no one really liked backstage, as it seems he got on the wrong side of everyone. That's Bagwell. The story goes that at one point in 2001, Bagwell told Hurricane that he's never going to be a draw in the WWE, and no matter how cool or zen you are, everyone has to burst one way or another, and that's exactly what happened. Bagwell's remark caused Hurricane to respond by saying that Bagwell was juicing, meaning using steroids, and that was enough for Bagwell to slap Hurricane across the face. Hurricane responded by throwing a plastic water bottle at Bagwell's head to bust him wide open. Hardcore indeed. Shortly after, Bagwell was released from WWE. Oh, and this is how he looks like today. Number 4. Kurt Angle vs Brock Lesnar. Olympic gold medalist vs UFC fighter. Now, there's a match I'd love to see, especially when it's out of character and real punches are thrown, and that's exactly what happened here. 2003. A house show in South Dakota. After being egged on by the rest of the roster and after Angle heard that Lesnar said he could easily beat Angle, the two got into war that lasted for about 12 minutes. For what Lesnar lacked in experience relative to Angle, he made up for in strength, but it wasn't enough. Angle scored the single decisive takedown to win this fight, even though Lesnar had almost 100 pounds of weight on Angle. Guess it's good to be a real wrestler and not just an entertaining one. Another gold for Angle if you ask me. Number 3. Shawn Michaels vs Marty Jannetty. It's unclear who started and how the two got into a real fight, but according to Jannetty, this fight happened in the hallway with Jannetty beating the hell out of Michaels. Meanwhile, all this time Rowdy Roddy Piper just stood there and watched instead of breaking the two apart. Guess he simply enjoyed the show. It got to a point that the police were called and Jannetty was cuffed, on his way to jail. But to the rescue came Macho Man Randy Savage. The officers were so excited to see him, that he convinced them to let Jannetty go in return for some autographs. Michaels missed the next day of shows due to his face being cut up from the fight and he was ready to quit WWF for good. Eventually Vince, the other wrestlers and Jannetty convinced him to stay. The two hugged it out, apologized and moved on from there on to better days. Number 2. Big Show vs Great Khali. Did you feel a shake when this happened? Maybe a slight tremor? I mean, Big Show vs Great Khali? It's like a mini earthquake, right? According to the book, The Best in the World, at What I Have No Idea by Chris Jericho, this incident took place in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Jericho claims that the beef started because Great Khali stole one of Big Show's spots during a tag match. It was that rage that might have caused Show to lose the brawl, as after a few punches were exchanged, Show toppled over and fell after losing his balance and Khali landed on top of him. Big Show also had to apologize to him afterwards in front of Vince McMahon for starting the fight. Wait, did you feel that? Number 1. Booker T vs Batista. 5-time WCW champion versus a Marvel Cinematic Universe star. Should be good. This fight took place in May 2006. Batista and the rest of the WWE roster were filming a commercial for SummerSlam when he made a crucial mistake, not shaking everyone's hands. That, combined with some disparaging comments Batista made about the SmackDown roster, didn't make him well liked by some of the boys. Booker T took exception to this and decided to lay down the gauntlet to Batista. They brawled and by most accounts of the story, Booker T got the best with the only strike Batista nailed him with coming from a sucker punch. I guess Batista should have called his Avengers friends to help him out here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, please like it and subscribe to support our channel, and hit the bell notification icon to get notified of future videos. What is the fight or brawl you remember the most? Write us in the comments below. Thank you and have a wonderful day.